The Swiss Travel Pass is one of the best ways to travel in Switzerland, but it's expensive. There's also the Saver Day Pass, which is much cheaper and also gives you unlimited travel. So, just buy a few Saver Day Passes to save money, right? Please don't, at least not before you watch this video. I did a deep dive into the prices and found that the Saver Day Pass is not as cheap as it seems. I made a spreadsheet to compare Saver Day Pass prices with the Swiss Travel Pass. First, I entered the minimum and maximum Saver Day Pass prices because they depend on demand and when you buy. Then I added the price of the Swiss Half Fare card, which lets you buy Saver Day Passes at a discount. And finally, the prices of the Swiss Travel Pass. Something really interesting happened when I calculated the actual cost per travel day. In many cases, the Saver Day Pass is not your cheapest option at all. I'll show you. Here in the top you can see the minimum and maximum Saver Day Pass prices. I also calculated the average because you can't assume the lowest price is always available. And at the bottom you'll see the price per travel day for the different Swiss travel passes. I immediately noticed the prices in green. The daily cost of the 15-day Swiss travel pass is always lower than the Saver Day Pass, even if you use it for only 9 days. The daily cost of the 8-day Swiss travel pass matches the lowest possible price of the Saver Day Pass, but keep in mind that getting that lowest price is not guaranteed. But here's what's even more important. The Swiss Travel Pass gives you better coverage, like free entry to cheese and chocolate factories, castles and museums. It does not sell out like the Saver Day Pass and can be refunded if needed. So even when the Swiss Travel Pass costs a bit more, it's still the better deal, saving you money overall. But for the full picture, we should also check what happens if you have a Swiss Half Fare card, because that makes the Saver Day Pass even cheaper. Now, here's the price range of the Saver Day Pass in that case, plus the cost of the Swiss Half Fare card itself, which we need to factor into the daily price. Still, the 8 and 15-day Swiss travel passes are cheaper than the Saver Day Pass for Swiss Half Fare card holders. The only exception is if you're lucky enough to find 6 or more Saver Day Passes at the lowest price. But I can tell you, that's nearly impossible. Even finding just one Saver Day Pass at the lowest price for Swiss Half Fare card holders can be hard. You'd have to book months in advance and get a bit lucky too. That's why these prices are red here. It's more realistic to look at average prices. And in that case, any Swiss travel pass is always cheaper than Saver Day passes. Plus, you get the extra perks I mentioned earlier. Now, I'm not saying the Saver Day Pass is always a bad idea. It's just not the best option for most tourists. There are exceptions, like if you're only staying in Switzerland for a day or two, plan to travel a lot by trains and don't make mountain trips, or only the few that are included in the Saver Day Pass. Another exception is if you don't travel much overall, so you chose the Swiss Half Fare card instead of the Swiss Travel Pass, but you do have 1 or 2 long travel days on fixed dates. If you buy months in advance, you can get a good deal on Saver Day Passes for those days. So don't assume the Saver Day Pass is your best option. Instead, look at the numbers and what you're actually getting for your money. The Saver Day Pass is fantastic for occasional travelers who plan their trip well in advance. For tourists like you and me, traveling all over Switzerland and doing excursions every day, the Swiss Travel Pass is almost always the cheaper and easier choice. Go to the My Swiss Alps website to see all the discussed prices, pass coverage, and get personal help.